name a
What's the
shit
thing?
ton
Like
of
in
cycle.
Bitcoin spaces, like we talk about this fucking all the time: inflation, bonds, pensions, zombie companies. You know, the regulatory moats, BlackRock, Vanguard. This is all just us just discussing our soap operas or Love Island for the normies. That they know Love Island. We know inflation, BlackRock, Vanguard, bonds are trash, pensions are trash.
Inflation.
Yeah.
But outside of Bitcoin, none of that is known. Literally, the common understanding of every single one of those things that I just said is the opposite in NPC.
Well, what was it which an NPC said? I shouldn't say NPC, she listens to it, but his comment was an NPC comment. I like my currency backed by debt.
Ooh.
I was like, ooh. I was just like, have you actually thought about what you just said to me?
No, I'm just trying to think like. Boom, we are back. That's right, the 4Bs bringing you Pod 152. Who is in the house? Mr. All In, aka the $1 trillion man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, aka Daddy 2 Days, myself, Sir Never Look, aka the Excellence of Execution, and Mrs. No Show. Today, no show. She's got a good excuse. Or does she?
The birthday.
Correct.
What is it, 4 Starbucks today?
Ooh.
Because she's worth it.
Pumpkin latte.
Yeah, why not? YOLO. As the kids say.
So close to.
Yeah.
So
Happy
close
birthday.
to getting rid of that nickname, but gonna keep coming in it. But yeah. Should just get us crack on straight in with the stories, because like we faffed about too much before we even started this pod, so let's just crack on it.
Let's get on. Let's get straight in. Let's dive straight in.
Speed read.
Yeah, let's see if we can get this all wrapped up in 15 minutes. So our first story is Elizabeth Warren, and she's on Squawk Box, and talking about price gouging, price controls. And usually you see her on any mainstream US show. She'll get all her talking points out, blame the big bad capitalists about price gouging. They'll just go, "Oh, you are so right." And she'll claim that she's working for the common person, working on reducing prices and making life fairer and all that kind of stuff. Holy shit, Joe Squawk does not take any of it.
Isn't he a Bitcoiner? Haven't we had him on before?
Yeah.
We have had him on before, yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago, he was a naysayer on Bitcoin, and
Correct.
he switched recently. But in the last year, you can tell he's been orange pilled, and his position on just about everything, which once you take the orange pill, you suddenly go, these politicians come on and say they're helping the world by putting price controls on things, and you go, no, it's not. It doesn't help anything. And it's fantastic just to see it, because sometimes I do think,
what
am I in a bit of a
You're in
cult?
support of price gougers?
No, cool. What the hell? No. As we've said, it's all supply and demand. And yeah, someone's.
I'm actually surprised that he's still got his job though, because the fact that he's switched and he is so vocal about it, because the last time that we had him on was when Jamie Dimon was on, and he kind of put him to rights, and Jamie was just like, right, this is the last time I'm going to talk about this, and got quite irate for normally a pretty calm guy. But yeah, it's interesting that he's still there and they're allowing him on mainstream TV to do this.
Yeah, I love how she tried to, like, he just pulled her out on her examples, didn't he? Like she was saying how
it's CNBC as well, which is a Democrat station, isn't it?
Yeah. This is like complete middle of the road mainstream media, right? Like straight after this, CNN or something will come on, right? And clearly he's been spouting Bitcoin talking points for the last year, and finally you can just see he's exasperated with her. So she tries to use an example of how oh, look, the price of eggs need to have a price control on because look, let's just take this company, for example, and their profits 5x between last year and this year. That is clear price gouging. And he just goes, no, that is a salacious or like vindictive way of positioning that because avian flu happened last year, where they had to destroy 40 million eggs. So all their profits were wiped out. This year, they didn't have to do it. So they actually made the billion. But they made
Yes.
so that is not price gouging on the price of eggs.
So for anyone listening, last year they would have made abnormally low profits. Whereas, so you look at supermarkets, I think we touched upon this, you're talking single low figures percentage profit each year. And so this year they made record compared to last year because, like Mr. Orland said, they had to destroy a load of stock, a record amount of stock. And but I was like listening, thinking, if I did this in my job, and say my boss picked up on me bullshitting someone like that, you'd take a right bollocking, wouldn't you? Because you're using something which appears to be a fact when it's isolated, but when you actually put it into, say, the sentence or whatever you want to call it, the situation, you're kind of going, you're basically picking one part and manipulating it to create a story, which is ultimately what she's doing. And I remember seeing this story because everyone's like, oh, you know, she's doing it. She's doing it on, you know, she's clueless about the economy. I'm like, she's not clueless. No. She's doing it on purpose.
You know, well, they're doing what they always do, right? Like the best lie has some basis of truth in it. 100%. So what she's saying, like the profit was low last year and is high this year. That is factually correct, and she can, like, anyone can go and Google that, and like they'd be like, "Oh right, no, Elizabeth Warren was telling the truth." But it's missing the overall context of the reason why they lost $1 billion was because of, yet again, which is almost even more hilarious about this, because of the government. The government told them to destroy all those eggs because they created alarmist nonsense about avian flu that didn't become nothing. So companies like this lost $1 billion, and now they're back to normal and actually can make money again. She's coming out going, they're price gouging. You go.
But it's also when you've got them against all the other supermarkets. So there's like 5 main supermarkets, whatever in the US, they can't price gouge because if they start charging 3 times the price at whatever store this is, they then go, well, I'll go to this store. You know, it's really simple because there's so many different options, and it just seems like, you know, this is misdirection. But I think in its most sinister form, looking at potential. How do they bring in some CBDCs? Our CBDCs would stop this.
Yeah. The biggest irony of this when I listen to this stuff is like price gouging and monopolies do happen, but they largely happen when the free market isn't allowed to act and regulation.
Sky Sports.
Yeah, well, when regulation and compliance is built around a thing, right? And once they've got lock-in, and so the first thing you do is when you become there'll be 100 startups in any new space that comes out, maybe thousands of startups. A couple will rise to the top. Eventually, the one will appear. They'll acquire their next biggest competitors. They've got their legit, right? They're the best product, the best execution of the strategy. They nailed it. But the best way to keep yourself there is then start lobbying government and start going, this space needs to be regulated. And they just bring in more and more regulation, which essentially builds the regulatory moat and the barrier entry now.
Correct.
You don't just need 1 million to come and compete. You need 20 million, 50 million just to get table stakes. Now you have to innovate past that. So suddenly 99% of startups will never happen now because the regulatory moat is so deep. So when she talks about price gouging and sometimes the market doesn't work properly, you go, yeah, I actually agree, because the fucking government get involved and you become
you think about banks, so like
mafia.
we put this big regulatory moat, and we've ended up with a financial system which relies upon a 1960s technology, which is which one is it? It's chaps, isn't it? Always get chaps and backs mixed up.
Or Swift,
yeah.
But the basic one, which sits behind the scenes, which transfer payments, it takes like a month to actually transfer it properly.
Yeah.
But
yes, I think it is chaps.
But rather than actually innovating it and actually, you know, if you actually brought in competitors who could go, I'm going to start a bank because we've got this, we've got instant settlement, whatever else, which potentially give them market share. They can't get in, can
No.
they?
No. You need tens of millions to get started. And it's only recently. So yeah, it's but hey, I came away from that just going, it's fantastic to see someone on a mainstream channel give a politician a run for their money and not just going after, you know, like a personality trait or trying to get them with a gotcha. This was just straight down the line. Your point is wrong. Like your whole policy on price gouging and price controls is wrong. And this is why. I have evidence to back it up. And just listening to her go, she just ignored his points completely and just continued down on her bullet points and occasionally going, can I finish? You're not letting me finish. You know, which is a classic kind of control of, you know, and then she also knows that the segment's only 6 minutes long. She goes, if I make sure all my answers are at least 2 or 3 minutes, you don't get to come back at me because I know you picked a break.
He picked the points, but then, you know, he overlaid it with pretty much, let's put the overlay of housing versus food versus assets and commodities, so things like oil, gas, whatever else. And let's plot them over a graph, and then we can see, is food price gouging or is the dollar become weaker? Yeah. You know, it's a simple one. And I think, you know, simple things like housing, oil, gas, and whatever. Well, actually, gas would really show it, but it isn't down to they're not all colluding. It's because the dollar is worth a lot less, isn't it? They printed so much under the Democrats' watch.
Yeah, I like even at the very, very beginning of the interview, he kind of premises it with, if you genuinely want to reduce the cost of living and help the average American, then we could have a conversation about that. But this will not do that. And I love that just beginning bit because it is such a passive aggressive comment towards her. It's basically going, you don't want to help the average person. You just want another layer of control. If you wanted to help people, you do something completely different, not this. And I love that.
Plus, it's also like, I always look at American politics and go, how can you actually have a democracy which is based on a bunch of 70 and 80-year-olds who don't give a fuck about the future?
Yeah.
They don't give a stuff, do they? And yet this is someone who's in power and is near the top as well.
Yeah. Sweet. Should we move on? So we've got we've got a channel, Simply Bitcoin TV, which I must admit I've watched a couple of their videos over the years. I don't think I'm a massive avid watcher of their channel, but it just came across my Twitter over the last couple of days because they've been deleted. They've had their channel completely deleted off YouTube, and with no real rationale as to why, just other than repeated violations of harmful and dangerous of our harmful and dangerous policy. So because of this, we've removed your channel from YouTube. And the crazy thing is about these kind of YouTube deletions is you don't really get much recourse. It's a little bit weirdly, it's like when you fail a compliance or, you know, a KYC AML type check, you don't get told why, because potentially it helps you get past it in the future. And YouTube does the same thing really, where they won't kind of say, oh, you said this or you alluded to that, that's why we have deleted your channel. Because straight away then you can tell others like, oh, you can talk about this subject, just don't say these words because that's what they get triggered by. And that'll get your channel deleted so people can navigate around it. And who knows, like I watched this channel a few times. It's not as probably out there as this one that we're on, right? They say less controversial things than us. Obviously, they're always on the same topics. Probably just don't go quite as far and as blatant. But yeah. Or when the second I saw this, I'm like, the only thing that surprises me about this is how the hell has the 4B's channel not been deleted yet?
Like, this is exactly what I was thinking as well. I was just like, ooh.
I was going to say, it give us Tuesday nights back, wouldn't it?
I could just pretend to record it.
Yeah.
Or just record it, then do nothing with it. Just delete it again.
I used to watch a channel that was purely Bitcoin related, and I'm just trying to find it in my YouTube subscriptions, but it was pretty much 24/7. Don't know if you guys have ever seen it. I'm trying to look in mine. Can't find it or the name of it, but there was a Bitcoin only, or I want to say it wasn't even crypto. It was more Bitcoin live news. It was like a rolling stream, but
No, actually, it seems
it's
to
not
be.
the.
I've just seen it on Twitter. It's breaking news, but it's back.
Yeah, I
Ah,
just went onto it and I just saw and I was a bit like,
Yeah, somebody. So they got 43,000 subscribers, 2,500 videos. So yeah, so the channel's back, but you can see that they last uploaded 5 days ago. So they lost the channel for 5 days and looks a bit, but
well,
they appear to be
well,
back.
people getting strikes and obviously their channels, that's not new, in terms of that happening, but to get it back so soon is interesting as well.
there were some big names across my Twitter telling YouTube just to put it back up.
Hmm. So maybe
Yeah.
that's it helped and influenced it, which is probably the case. There's a kind of like an odd story, but Eminem used to rap with this one guy who interviewed with him, like his on his own direct channel, and all of his videos were just lost. Like, and he's a pretty big name himself, and I think it was literally months, over maybe even a year, that because he had like normal standard views on his channel, and then all of a sudden he had this really big spike because the interview with Eminem naturally caused lots of people to go and watch it, and yeah, just went.
Yeah,
So
I heard that.
the
I heard there
YouTube
is.
strike. Go
Well,
on.
I heard just a little interview with a UFC fighter earlier today. Got his Instagram deleted, and he goes, "I don't know really what I did, but I was in the process of uploading." Theo Vaughn had Donald Trump on, and he liked a little clip. She was uploading that to Instagram, and he said it wasn't loading. He tried it a couple of times, it wouldn't load, and he went, "Oh, whatever." And came back an hour later, and his Instagram has been deleted. And he's gone, it must be the Donald Trump thing. They saw me trying to upload content on Donald Trump. So apparently Donald Trump is banned from Instagram. Even sharing his content will get you banned. It's
Is Instagram Facebook owned?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, which
You
they've
need
still
someone to go
publicly
and buy them
banned.
and then sack 80% of the staff. That seemed to work last time.
Yeah, Zuckerberg ain't for selling now. That's the problem. But yeah, I'm pretty
Definitely
sure
not.
Donald Trump is still banned from Facebook, which is still hilarious. He's
Probably
still
will
there
be.
because he was banned for Twitter until Elon took over.
He hasn't come back
Anyway, um,
Let's zoom on through.
yeah, should we go on to the next story, which is like it's kind of hilarious, right? It's a good old scientific paper, which the second you hear those words, you go, "Ah, it's probably bollocks," then, isn't it? All scientists that get any papers that get any decent traction are clearly being co-opted to basically just say something that the state want them to say, and they've just paid them to come up with that conclusion. And here we are. So research finds crypto owners, which let's be honest, like Bitcoin, equal psychopaths. So the University of Toronto researchers found that crypto holders display lower levels of analytical and scientific thinking and are likelier to exhibit psychopathy than the general population.
Have you actually read the article?
I haven't read the paper, no.
Yeah, because I haven't read it myself, but I kind of like I read like the obviously this bit and then the little introduction which they put in, and it's got the lovely bit. Moreover, governments have expressed significant concern not only about cryptocurrency's ability to bankrupt individuals and disrupt worldwide financial markets, but also potential linkages to crime and terrorism. You could just put the dollar in front of that, couldn't you?
Yeah. Oh man, like this is hilarious, right? Look how much they're dicking on us. This survey is of 2001 American adults, right? And we find that the variables most strongly correlated with cryptocurrency ownership are being male, having a victimhood mindset and relying on alternative or fringe social media as one's primary news source.
So is Twitter fringe now?
They have anti-establishment attitudes and non-normative behaviors. Basically, we ain't fucking NPCs that soak up the lies that you feed us. You're like, that's why I love the replies. It's just that one of Jack Nicholson going, yes, yes. It's like, are you a psychopath? It's like, yeah. Like, well, in your world, yeah. The right-wing, racist, xenophobic Nazi that you talk about, which basically is just anyone that disagrees with you.
Well,
Fine. Layer on psychopath as well. I'm already a fucking Nazi, so whatever.
It's Steve Hanke at the start, like he says research finds crypto owners equal psychopaths. And then he also goes on to say crypto holders display lower levels of analytical and scientific thinking. And you kind of go, first of all, if they're psychopaths, then it means they're fairly emotionless, which probably means they're more analytical. So it's like, which one do you want to pick? So I think the people I know who are into Bitcoin are very analytical. So
I know it's hilarious that they say we're not analytical.
But then again, if you go into crypto, you kind of got the people who love to spin the shitcoin casino wheel, don't they? But they win every time, obviously.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of the study that they did on red meat. And again, this is lying with data, just as Elizabeth Warren did, right? Where they did a similar study on a couple of thousand people that ate meat, and then to see whether it correlated with heart disease. And the little fact that they left off is that the majority of the red meat people are eating were in McDonald's.
It was processed in a study, and it bamboozled everyone for years. It's like it's one of the couple of big diet lies. The other one was around eggs being worse than cigarettes, which came from the 70s, and it's only really recently which it's really gone away.
Yeah, and it's just like I'm sure that study, like let's see the 2001 people, it's just and clearly like there's literally, I just read the study then, there isn't a single positive thing throughout it. Everything is negative. So that is not a non-biased, scientific paper that is analyzing the minds of crypto owners. That is a hit piece that is wrapped up in a scientific paper. It's almost like an opinion piece.
Yeah.
It has barely any science in it. Like they drop your graph and stuff, but then when you read the words, it's constant like personal attacks on the people in this study.
You know what? I would love someone to analyze your mind. Probably traumatized, wouldn't they?
I've had it analyzed quite a few times in these like weird work, like those psychopath tests and
we just say, why do you keep on going about bathtubs and Toblerones?
Yeah, there was a couple of
the Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs, yeah, a bit of that, yeah. There was a couple of those that I did. Yeah, I answered a bit too truthfully on a couple of things, I think. Like, they did set up a couple of alarm bells, but I'm like, oh no, I wouldn't really do that. I'm lying, so I would.
I was just trying to scam the test.
Yeah, but I guess we just have to add psychopath to our list of insults that we get now. But honestly, this is just yet again, it's just all part of the propaganda, like media war against Bitcoin, isn't it? It's just yet another thing to go, let's just say you were on the edge and then someone is sharing that article on LinkedIn or something. And you maybe know a few people that buy a bit of Bitcoin, you're not totally in. You read that and you go, oh, if you're in that space, you're more likely to be a psychopath, and basically a load of like negative attributes. And you're like, well, I don't want to join that group.
Exactly.
And that's what it's designed for. It's designed to
that pushes you back at least a year.
Yeah.
you know, because you finally get to that space. Because let's be honest, the noise and the rhetoric around Bitcoin when all of us were joining was the classic. It's used by fraudsters, drug addicts, Silk Road related. And so you're like, don't really feel very comfortable around this. Yeah, I'll back off. When really it wasn't. It was some nerds that knew maths and could figure out that the money printing was going on and that this is a much better form of currency and store of value.
Just hold on. I think what this guy's tried to summarize out the paper is completely wrong. So here we go, reading direct from the paper. Demographics: response who own or have owned cryptocurrency were significantly younger than those who have not. As shown in figure 2, cryptocurrency owners are largely male, more educated, have a higher income, and are more religious than those who have never owned cryptocurrency. Crypto ownership was also positively associated with respondents who identified as Black and Hispanic. I love how we say who identified as. Moreover, owning crypto was not significantly associated with respondents who identified as white. So whatever he summarized out this paper is completely wrong.
What do you mean? What? So it doesn't. It mentioned psychopathy though.
Conspiracies and thinking styles and attitudes towards science. Owning cryptocurrency is possibly related to several variables that have been found to predict greater receptivity to weak claims and unwarranted beliefs. For example, through crypto ownership is possibly through weakly correlated with general scientific knowledge.
It says it in the abstract. So we also found that crypto ownership was associated with a belief in conspiracy theories.
It says weakly linked though, so yeah, this doesn't actually mean anything.
It doesn't say weekly.
No, it does in the actual document.
Oh right.
Do you think the summary's been edited for the headline?
Yeah.
Headline,
it has. And looking at the kind of like uncertain language within the actual document, it's not
got
even
sadism in it as well. By the way,
it's not. I'd be very surprised with that. Let's have a look. The word sadism.
This is the bit I'm reading.
Oh no, it has.
It's the bit I'm reading.
Oh, here we go. It's the abstract at the top.
Yeah, that's what I was reading from. Yeah.
Personality and motivational factors to assess personality characteristics. No, that's just the calculation. Crypto ownership is possibly associated with several so-called dark personality characteristics, including narcissism, Machiavelli, I can't say the bloody word, psychopathy, and sadism. I don't actually know how you correlate it based upon a quiz. So yeah,
what's the thing? The questions I've done business questionnaires, and a lot of the employment ones, the early ones, are looking for narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths because you don't want to hire those people.
But you do because they're always the one who lead companies.
Yeah.
They end up doing very well, yeah, because they obviously can pass these tests, but they will cause chaos inside your business. But yeah, they end up being.
But you end up with the big leaders quite often have the most personality traits and being able to separate their emotion and I suppose what works for business.
Yeah, it's anyway. We know that they started that whole study with the result in mind, and they got some answers. Who knows how many times they ran it as well? I remember the one with the meat one. Even though the meat was based on fast food meat, still the study actually was non-conclusive. It was just a load of dots in a big rectangle. So what they did is knocked off the top triangle and the bottom triangle to get a nice linear line that went up with the more red meat you eat, the more heart disease you get. And it wasn't until decades later they realized they deleted a load of data points.
Well, this is it. When they say a sample of 2001, you kind of go, well, how many do you start with? Was it 5,000?
Yeah. Is this the first time you've done the study or the 8th?
Oh, it would have been the first time. They would have just come up with excuses to cut the data out, which is what they did with that red meat study, but also various others.
Yeah, but We got another one. They haven't called us a psychopath before. Got a new one to add to our list. So we're now psychopaths as well. That's
What we've had?
racist, xenophobic,
Bigots.
anti-Semitic, Nazis.
Bigots.
Probably a bit of terrorism and child porn in there as well.
Should we go on to the positive? Though I kind of do feel this is...
Before we get banned and every video that we've ever uploaded disappears into the ether.
Well, the good thing is, like, in that instance, then I was saying we are that, right? Can you? I wonder if you can get banned from just calling yourself that thing, but you haven't said anything like that. You're not calling anyone else that. We're calling ourselves it. That would be really weird.
But then you're doing harm.
Are you saying that you identify as a psychopath?
No, just our group of Bitcoiners just are being labeled this, and so it's interesting for me to find this out.
Well, anyway, the next one, positive story. So, but I did feel this was a little bit Groundhog Day. So, Lightspark have now settles to USD bank account in seconds. I kind of went, didn't Strike do this about a year ago?
Well, probably more like 5 years ago.
Do you remember, like, Jack Wallers was going around some stores where he managed to get a pilot, and he's literally flicking in out of dollar to Bitcoin and back to make sure there's kind of like this system in place using Lightning. I mean, the one thing which I'll say is it's obviously positive because it's another company, another like innovation doing it, and obviously you get more companies, more offerings, you end up with more adoption. I think it is a net positive, but at first you kind of go, oh, this is groundbreaking, but yeah, it's been done before. But good for capitalism.
Yeah. I think what's different about this is the fact that it's coming from it goes actually into a bank account as opposed to into a Strike account.
Yeah, that's where I think the difference is. And I think it's more from a retail, as in consumer perspective, as opposed to a B2B perspective, which is where I think Strike is.
No, Strike was consumer, B2C.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that they were basically doing the, oh God, what's it called? Yeah, the currency exchange company.
Forex?
Oh no. Oh, it doesn't matter. But they were the first ones to do it where that currency exchange was so expensive and they just went, nah, like we'll just hold currency at both ends and make the fees nearly nothing. It's essentially what Stripe was doing. But with Bitcoin and various fiat. So they weren't actually moving the Bitcoin and they weren't moving the fiat. They just have Bitcoin and fiat in multiple locations, and all they do is just send a notification to say, debit this account and credit this account.
Yes.
And the money just appears to have moved, but it hasn't really. The money was already in your country. So if I'm sending something from America to Cuba, that would look like, oh, well, how did you transfer that money? Because that money has costs to send it through the banking system. That's why you get charged. It's like, well, no, we've already got money in Cuba and we've got money in America. You want to send $100, all we'll do is take it off you in a database and add it on here. The money never moved anywhere. We just changed the noughts and ones. And we can charge very minimal rates for that. And it's revolutionary. So that's what Strike did. But they can only do that in their app, in the Strike app. That you both need the Strike app at both ends. It looks like what these guys have done in Lightspark, provided they're set up to accept it. You can send essentially, this guy here sends $1 worth of Bitcoin to an address, and within seconds it appears in a JP Morgan bank account as $1.
Okay.
It does look pretty game
next
changing.
step. It's out of the app. It's not to another Lightspark address where I sent Bitcoin and they received $1. You go, wow, that Strike, but that's still in a kind of a Bitcoin ecosystem. This person had a JP Morgan bank account and receives $1 in under a minute, and obviously they're not working with JP Morgan, are they? They haven't got agreement to go, oh, you need to make sure. They've essentially, all they've really probably done is done another API, which they've done the Bitcoin and dollar thing. They've got Bitcoins and dollars on both ends of the stack. They're not sending the Bitcoin anywhere. They're just taking that off your balance, adding it to this balance, but going, oh, you don't want that balance. You want a dollar instead. That's fine. That is the same. So we'll add a dollar. Oh, but you want it in this bank account, right? Where we now need the API from our app into your bank, and send the dollar in there. The biggest thing that's surprised about it really is the fact that JP Morgan can register the pound so quick or the dollar. Yeah, it's normally the financial banking system that would be oh, that will show up in 1 to 2 hours or maybe tomorrow.
Correct.
But yeah, it looks pretty seamless, but yeah, it's good that we're building infrastructure, but right now it's not particularly useful because the majority of people don't really want to spend their Bitcoin, do they? So they're earning fiat, they spend that, and what they got left, they stack Bitcoin.
It does go back to, as we've always said, though, that whilst the price, which we'll come on to, obviously just continues to trend right, there's lots of things, as we talk about each and every week, that are just happening in this space. And it means that, we're making advancements continuously, and it just doesn't stop, even though it hasn't changed. The fundamentals haven't changed. And we need these small iterations and additional companies doing similar things like the Strikes of this world. So then eventually it just becomes the norm. What I took away from it is it's just making it even more easier for it to become the norm, for the average person to be like, okay, yeah, I'm comfortable with this because it looks like something that I've done and used before. Go on then.
Yeah.
I think the acceptance is helping or getting us there.
Yeah. It's the classic final mile thing as well, isn't it? Like just getting it into a bank account. I've
It's
also heard
sorting out all the kinks. It's sorting out, like the kinks in the Lightning Network, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've heard as well, I can't remember who was saying it, but how they were trying to get someone into Bitcoin for ages, and they were just like, oh, I don't want to set up an account on an exchange, sounds risky. But they were an investor, and then the ETF came out, and they just brought like $10,000 worth of Bitcoin the day the ETF came out. And it was just like, why didn't you do it the proper way? They just want that ease. So I think the classic like user experience of Bitcoin is you shouldn't need to download all these bespoke apps. You should just be able to pretty much use the apps you have and use Bitcoin. So there's going to be a bit of obviously resistance to that because the existing financial system, as we know, is set up to hope that we fail. But who knows? Little apps like this might be founding the way, building the rails. It's nice to see. Anyway,
cool. Should we go on to the next story? Because I guess this is where I was really touching on it. Looking back at the charts, it shows that Bitcoin has been fairly stable. Of course, we've had our ups and downs naturally, but over the last 6 months, it's kind of chopped sideways. In and around a UK price of just under 50k.
Yeah, because in dollars it's just ranging from 52k up to about 70. So there's a decent range there, like pretty much, what's that, about 40%, 30%, about 40, yeah. So it's a relatively big range but essentially I think this is where like we are in the cycle really, where it's like we're just getting a bit bored because we keep getting these big run-ups from 50 to 70, but then we just kind of come back down to either 60, go back to 70, then down to 50, up to 60, down to 50 again. We're just bouncing around and it's just choppy waters and kind of no one's being satisfied, right? They've got the doom and gloomers that say Bitcoin's dead. They keep getting proven wrong every month because it recovers. But then you got people like us going, now we're guaranteed to go to 100k, 200k, 300k. And whenever it looks like we're doing that, we reverse and go back down again. it's like it's just proving everyone wrong, right? And I guess Bitcoin's just doing its thing where it's just being unpredictable. It should have taken off by now, but we haven't. And but hey, we're at a good place. But I guess this is why just people are getting a little bit bored, and the whole is Bitcoin dead thing, even though it hasn't got legs, it's just because we haven't taken off. You go, well, if Bitcoin isn't going up, does that mean it's dead? It's like, well, no. But yeah, I mean, people are just getting a bit bored. But that's if you stare at the price all day, which I must admit now, I've got obviously the price behind me. I barely even look at it now. It's almost this 6 months has stopped me looking because it's always up and
Yeah.
down 2 to 5% every day. But whenever I like redo the calculation, I'm like, hold on, it's the same price that I thought it was because I've missed a day where it went down, and then I go, oh, it's gone up 5%. Oh, that'd be nice gains. No, it's the same price. Oh, it must have gone down 5% yesterday. It's just, and like every time I've looked, I'm like, it's just choppy. Like it's just always in the same range, and it's like it's not interesting. You know, either
Funny you
dump
say
further
this.
or go far higher. Like, yeah.
So, so against my mantra of just don't look, I've actually got the Bitcoin price on my Apple Watch,
Ooh.
and I thought it
Oh,
was broke because of exactly that. I was just like, hold on, that was the same price the other day, and we're still there. But yeah, exactly that. I'm like, all right, it's
Hopefully,
showing it.
I'd love it to get to a point where like people just don't see Bitcoin as an asset that you trade. Yeah. Maybe if we just be boring for a bit longer, like the people just piss off. So every time you tell people you're Bitcoin, like, oh, do you trade? It's like, no. Like, why is
I only ever
Bitcoin a
look when
trade?
someone says, "Oh yeah, it's dipped" or whatever. That's when I find myself looking to see what it's actually dipped
Yeah,
to. And like you said, it's a 5%, and you kind of go,
Yeah,
doesn't
and as
mean
far as you
anything.
know, like that was the price I thought it was at. I missed the pump that happened that no one talked about, and now we've dumped. You're like, what? That's the same price as I thought it was. Like, I didn't even know
yeah,
it went up
yeah.
to be dumping to the price I still thought it was at.
Yeah, that's where I last left it a few days or weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit boring, and I think like to really get the swell, like we do need a bit of a run, right? We need to get past this 70K, and let's get some new Bitcoiners in. Although we always say that they're never good when they come in. The new Bitcoiners when they come in, they're fucking idiots. They really are. They all think that they're here to fix Bitcoin. It's broken. Satoshi made a mistake. So we've got all that to come. Like the next bull market is just full of like these. Normally, they are pretty, intelligent individuals that have been successful in previous careers, finally found Bitcoin, and they come in and go, "Oh, you guys have been missing. Like, you need to add this, this, this," and you go, "Boys, like just take a seat and listen for a few months before you start suggesting how you're here to fix Bitcoin. Because just so you know, there's very many smart people that are infinitely smarter than you that have been here for a fucking decade and they've decided to leave it the fuck alone. So maybe listen to them a little bit first. Uh, but that comes
I
with
saw
every
you. I saw
4 months.
you having an argument with someone on Twitter about that who was into ordinals.
Oh yeah, that was just before we came on. Yeah,
Yeah, I was having a good chuckle about
Just
yeah.
just casually.
Some guy trying to
Yeah.
call me a peasant and that he owns Bitcoin now because he owns some ordinals. I'm like, dude, like he said
Ah,
he said he's like I'm the loser because he's doubled his stack. I'm like, congrats for doubling your zero point 0.1 Bitcoin to zero point 0.2. Like maybe you'll move out your basement in the next 2 to 3 decades. Congrats, bro.
or maybe you'll be living in a one-bedroom flat.
Yeah. Well, that's what you do if you want to get your stack up. Yeah. But I love doing that. I love just like poking at someone's wealth and just pretending, basically saying have fun staying poor. But because if I'm wrong and the person is rich, they won't respond on the price on the wealth question because they're confident in that, right? And they will
They
just
don't, and also they don't want to reveal that on
yeah,
Twitter.
exactly. It's an upset problem, right?
mm,
If you are poor, you come back with like some claim proving you are not poor. So that guy came back going, "I'm a whole coiner, and I'll be on the 6.15 Bitcoin club soon." I'm like, bro, you just told me almost exactly how much Bitcoin you have. You have about 1 Bitcoin, and you think you can continue to trade that to 6. You know, why did you do that? That's how fragile your ego is. I just poked at you once, and you just revealed how much Bitcoin you have to me. Why did you do that, bro? And he called me the peasant. And guess what? I didn't respond to that peasant comment. I didn't need to prove that, I'm not a peasant. I can almost guarantee you're 18 years old, living in your mum's basement, trading JPEG. Like, don't call me a peasant. But anyway, yeah, it's been a while since that was, and that the only reason, like, I don't go into shitcoin streets anymore. The only reason that even came up is because Bitcoin Magazine shared a freaking Donald Trump has some ordinals out now, and that my
Do you not
comment was
want
just,
ordinals and runes?
yeah, it's like, what the hell?
I thought they'd gone away.
So did I. I'm pretty sure they have, and like this guy is like trying to say that they're still here, but Donald Trump's like just trying to rinse you for money. He's not stupid. He thinks it's all a joke, but if you've got money to give him, like, he'll create some JPEGs for a couple of $100 and sell them to you for millions of dollars if you're dumb enough to buy them. Of course he will. He's a smart guy. And fools are easily relieved of their money, so that's what he's doing.
But talking about the money, the price going sideways, Jack Mallers thinks it's going to go as high as 1milly. Is it a clip which you're going to play? Is it short enough?
Yeah, go on. It's a good clip.
How high the inflation can get, what's going to happen, how much civil unrest. I mean, what we could see is, I've been on record saying I think Bitcoin's going to 250,000 to 1 million. Long before Trump or any of these rumors or whatever else, it's solely predicated on we're likely to see the greatest asset bull market in the history of bull markets. Why? Because central banks have progressively price fixed everything. Whenever something breaks, they don't let the business cycle complete. They don't let anything fail. They don't allow for pain. They don't allow for volatility. All these things are natural. Entropy is natural in the universe. It's ever increasing, right? And they don't allow for it. It's a very unnatural thing to do. Real estate market fails, they fix it. They price fix it. The only thing that has not been price fixed and protected is the bond market, the most unruly, holy mother mecca of all markets. And that's the one now that's in trouble. And you can see, like, the rule, like Lynn talks about fiscal dominance and the fact that Jerome Powell's real boss is Janet Yellen. It's supposed to be an independent central bank, but it's not. And his job is clearly to keep an orderly market in treasuries, protect this market. If the Japanese yen is in trouble, give them help. They can do whatever they want except sell treasuries. Like, protect us, help us. I don't care about rumors about Tether. If they're a large holder of ours, let them do whatever they want, right? And so, is this the cycle where central banks try and price fix the bond market? If it is, the quantity of money printing is astronomical. You're going to get 2, 3, 4, 5 COVIDs worth of printing. And I think it's going to send assets astronomically high. Gold, real estate, equities, right? And then Bitcoin is the only truly fixed asset we've ever had. And so Bitcoin will outperform everything.
Yeah.
My first question is, when Lambo?
Oh well, it's this cycle, he said, isn't it? So
yeah, he's right, because he talks about how would you say it, like zombie companies and bonds, doesn't he? How he's saying that we've had all these stocks like propped up and no one's talking about the bonds. We talk about the bonds all the time.
yeah.
The biggest pile of shit coins in fiat land which have ever been. So my understanding, which may be wrong, is bonds are mainly bought by government-owned banks, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
The
What's the thing, like, in
cycle.
Bitcoin spaces, like, we talk about this fucking all the time: inflation, bonds, pensions, zombie companies, the regulatory moats, BlackRock, Vanguard. This is all just us just discussing our soap operas or Love Island for the normies. They know Love Island, we know inflation, BlackRock, Vanguard, bonds are trash, pensions
Inflation.
are trash.
Yeah.
But outside of Bitcoin, None of that is known. Literally, the common understanding of every single one of those things that I just said is the opposite in NPC
Well,
land.
what was it which an NPC said? I shouldn't say NPC because he listens to it, but his comment was an NPC comment. I like my currency backed by debt.
Ooh,
I was like, ooh. I was just like, have you actually thought about what you just said to me?
No, I'm just trying to think, like dude, what do you?
It's someone who we all know.
I like my currency back by.
Yeah, and I said, you do realise what you just said?
yeah. It's like, so.
And he does occasionally listen to the show.
Does he?
Yeah, because he talked to me about it at the Christmas party. And he started trying to engage me in Bitcoin, but didn't know anything about it. And I said, you don't understand what you're talking about, do you?
I know. I'm trying to see like, just quickly figure out in my head the logic of saying that. And there is none.
Yeah,
Well,
so if you're listening and you know what you're being talked about, I'm happy to engage in a conversation once you've read the Bitcoin Standard.
Yeah, well, where he would have got that from is the fact that that's what the government say. You know, by backing a currency with other countries' debt.
But we've seen this,
leverage.
like, just for the listeners around this comment, Jack Mallers, I think he's specifically referring to the Japanese state of the economy because they own so much American debt. The Americans can't let them fail. So Japan has been absolutely stuffed for about 30 years. Like, you know, if you're going to buy an index, you buy the American index, you could even buy the FTSE, you could even buy the Europeans and whatever else, but do not touch the Japanese index funds because it's been on a downward trajectory or running level for the last 30 years, even though they're inflating the currency because there's no interest rates and basically their economy's just tanked. And we keep on seeing them about to trip up and then being saved. And it's happened a few times in the last couple of years. So they very much are one where it's going to blow up. It's just a matter of time. And I think the US are panicking, trying to work out how they save themselves from it, because I think it takes down a lot of America if the Japanese market goes.
Yeah. I think I was listening actually to Len Alden, and it went up I think I'm going to say 0.25 or 0.1 in terms of like the interest rate. And that alone obviously caused this like ripple effect.
Oh, yeah, because everyone took out because they've just had heavy inflation, no interest rates. It's like the carry. So basically, they loan money in Japan in order to use in the US and a higher interest rate. So it's called. I listened to a book about carry and I went, God, this is stupid. But you know, it's one of the
it is stupid. But then, given the fact that it hadn't risen for so long, and you were basically doing arbitrage. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say it's seen as a safe bet, but
correct.
It still is a gamble. It's like going, yeah, it is a casino bet. But the Japanese yen has been wobbling for a couple of years now, and it hasn't been about that carry, so it's not the first time.
Yeah, well, it's everything in the financial system, isn't it? Everything's a safe bet until it isn't. They go, oh, this thing hasn't changed for decades. It's like, but will it change in 500 years' time? And everyone will go, well, yeah, of course. Right, well, could it change in 100 years? They'll probably go, oh, yeah. 50? But most people go, oh, but it won't change the next 10. Like we got another decade in it. And guess what? No, we don't. The end is here. And they're like, oh my God, this is like it's a black swan event. It's like, well, it's not really, is it? It's just like if you look back over the history of any civilization or any economy, it goes through boom and busts. And guess what? That's what's happening now.
But if you think about, you know, like a carry, you've got options trading, you've got shorting stocks, you've got all these bullshit things which really shouldn't exist because the money's so unsound. It's created all these like ridiculous ways of investing, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Put
I
it
think you
into
should be
sound
able to.
currency. Most of these don't occur.
Yeah, I think that the basics you should be able to do, like, you should be able to long and short a business. I don't see anything wrong with that. But yeah, it all gets muddied. You're right,
What about
because what are
long
you
or
really longing
shorting
and shorting? Like even the companies themselves, if they get above a certain size, they are doing a load of this like currency manipulation themselves. They're buying their own stock back, and it's all just, well, actually, what is the balance sheet of this company? It's very hard to actually determine it because there are so many financial tricks that you can do with cash. So yeah, and obviously, once you're trying to invest in at a country level, if you're going that macro, then it's a complete all bets are off, because try and make sense of where the money is and what countries have money and what countries don't. It's just, well, they owe me 1 trillion, but they also owe them 2 trillion, but they owe me 3 billion. So technically it's just, but then we have this deal where we buy corn for this rate, but then they buy meat off this. If you worked out every single lever that is being pulled
Yeah.
in an economy and then mix that around all 140 countries, no one could make sense of that, which that's as designed. Because if you could make sense of it, you would realize what a freaking scam it is and how much money is being creamed off every single time, a payment is due. It's like it's all our money just looping round, and every time it takes a hop, someone carves off 0.5%, and it like all these 0.5% add up, and at the end you go, hold on, how much money's left out after everyone's paid each other? Like, oh, there's like 20 quid left. Yeah, I'll empty your bin. There you go. Like, hold on, you've all got mansions and castles, like just for moving money from place to place. And guess what? It didn't even move. It's just in a computer system.
Correct.
It's just yeah, it's one big magic trick, isn't it? Where they're the magician just moving their hands and trying to distract you so you don't see the card be switched, and then the trick is revealed at the end. You go, wow, amazing. So that's how inflation works. You're a magician. You're like, yep, trust me, bro.
I was actually going to maybe lean on the group on Friday night because someone in a WhatsApp group said, "What do you think to pensions?" and my response was, "They're a scam." and then like a few people were like, huh? And then I just had to drop some knowledge on the group because someone in the group is a huge advocate of doing pensions, and that's mainly because his dad was said, "Oh, yeah, just do a pension, you'll be okay, like private pensions, and it'll be all right that way." And I said, "That's true, but for their generation, it's true or was true, but not for us." And it's like, now, telling our kids to learn coding would be foolhardy to do so. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe, but you can't give them that same information for the future. And I was just like, guys, you really need to understand money a lot more. So I just gave them the basics of, what do you think about this, this, and this? And I think I might have got a few ears by doing so.
All you can do is just throw your 2 pence in, because obviously, how long did it take me? Well, number one, to get you into Bitcoin, and number two, to stop paying into pensions. Because even when you
Yeah,
became Bitcoiners, you were still holding on to that pension. You're like, I can't let this safety blanket go. I'm like, just so you know you do look like a 5-year-old dragging around your blankie. Going, that's what you're doing.
Well,
That's what a
funny
pension
enough,
is.
like my
yeah,
similar conversation, like my sister-in-law, very risk adverse, and we speak about pensions. She says, I don't understand, they're quite risky when you actually go down to it, because there's no set rules on what the tax is going in and what the tax is going out. And I just went, my God, like my brother and his wife are very, very risk adverse. And she said that, I just went, oh. I went, that's quite a strange thing for people to wake up. And it's like, yeah, whilst you can put a bit into pensions, you can't have it all there.
Nice. See, that's the thing. Like, they're so risk adverse. They're probably a million miles away from buying Bitcoin, but they've actually looked into what a pension is. Because most people, it's ignorance is bliss. They've been told it's a safety blanket, so just powers, and they've been told, like, put as much money as you can afford to save. They've actually gone, no, I'm so risk adverse. I don't like putting 10-20% of my money that I earn every single month into a magic pot that I'm supposed to just go, trust me, bro, this is right. They've looked into it and gone, what guarantees are there? On the way in, on the way out, what tax am I going to be paying on the way out? No one can tell you what it is, because that's in like 20 years' time or something.
What is it? You're allowed a tax-free allowance of first amount.
Well, that's today, isn't it? That's if you're taking it out today.
And but when you start hitting above certain amounts, and so if you're investing to a pension for
tax like income
for 30, 40 years, and inflation takes over so much, so if you think every 15 to 20 years the money halves or doubles, whatever way you want to call it, so you've got potentially three doubles in there or three halvings in there. So literally, you could end up, I want the 30 grand a year, to keep me ticking over. And it's going to be worth 60 on the first one. It's going to be worth 120 on the third one. So potentially, your income which you need per year is 120 to live a lifestyle of 30k now. And so you're kind of going, well, what tax band does that fit into? So if you're going into over 100,000, they're going to tax you to hell. So you've got 40% on the way in, but on the way out, potentially you're hitting well over 50% because you lose tax-free allowances and all sorts.
And who knows by then, they're already talking about it in America. They're taxing people on, potentially their unrealized capital gains. So how long till they start to put that into pensions? And then, like you said, at the moment, Kamala Harris is just propositioning this for people worth over $100 million. So the defense of it is, look, this is a tax to billionaire type thing. Don't stress about it. But guess what? It comes down. All these things come down in value.
I was going to say, even if you take it into 100 million, so you go 45 years, like I said, you get 120. You want to live 20 years on that. That's
2 million.
What's that going to be? That's going to be 1 million, 2 million. You want a good retirement, double it, 4. And you start getting towards, we put it at 10 million or whatever they put it on at the end.
Yeah,
that becomes a norm, doesn't it? Just like income tax when it's a top percent.
That 100 million will end up coming down to 10 million, and eventually it'll be only millionaires. We're just going after the millionaires, and like you said, with inflation, everyone will become a millionaire, right? And it's like that whole fucking film Idiocracy where Terry Crews just gives everybody in America $1 million. We're all millionaires now, we're all rich, and you go, that's not how money works. Now everyone's got $1 million. It doesn't work.
You also go, so we've come up with the equivalent of the 30 grand reasonable living. You get to have a reasonable life on that when you're retired. Your house as well in 3 halvings will be worth well over $1 million.
Yeah, everyone.
So they start taxing millionaires. You've got 2 million in your pension, and you've got potentially a house which is worth $1 million. So you've got 3 million sitting there for a modest retirement as well.
I know it's almost the genius of inflation, where they start off with tax laws that when they first come in, they look like they're miles away, and they are genuinely taxing the people that you would say could afford it, even though taxing unrealized gains are completely nuts. Like, that is just next level, just nuts.
Well, yeah, you're taxing them, and then the person's having to invest because they want to save their future, and they don't want it to be eroded by inflation. So they put it into investment, which hopefully tracks their money with inflation. I mean, you're taking away, you're going, oh yeah, you did put in 100,000, now it's worth $1 million because of inflation. So we're going to tax you on that, but it's only gone up by 900,000 because you've debased the currency. It's the most insane thing. Oh yeah, we're going to put 40% tax on that.
Crazy. The crazy thing as well, what will happen if that comes in is they'll get in some weird tax inception, like I did with the house, right? Because I had to sell Bitcoin to buy my house, but then by doing that, I incurred a taxable event. So the year after, I had to sell more Bitcoin to pay the tax on the Bitcoin that I sold the year before. but then I had to pay tax again on having to sell Bitcoin to pay that tax bill. And eventually it goes away because it gets below an amount. Imagine the person that has, $1 billion in unrealized gains, right? And they get taxed. I think they're proposing 25%. So they'd have to sell 250 million worth of shares. So they sell those shares to pay their unrealized cap gains, but now they've just realized gains. So that 250 million gets taxed on the normal cap gains now because they've realized the profit. So now they owe, what is that? It'll be another 50 million next year on the 250. And then guess what? They'd have on the next year, they now have to sell 50 million to pay the bill. They've got 20%. So they have, the year after that, they have to pay another 10 million. And then eventually, then after that, they have to pay another 2. And after that, it'll be, what is it? Something like 400,000. And so about 10 years down the line, you finally stop paying your unrealized taxable unrealized cap gains tax. Because it's, by having to pay the tax triggers a taxable event. It's
crazy.
It's a great way of just funneling all the money back to government. And really disincentivizes people from building businesses and investing, and just keeps them into the day-to-day grind, which obviously that's exactly where they want the majority of people. They want us all to be NPCs, go your job, work your time, get home, and work towards your retirement. Don't be having any ideas above your station, like creating companies or trying to build wealth. We've got all those positions are filled. You don't need to. Don't bother yourself. What's more down your alley will be our next story.
I see what you did there.
This is what you boys need to be thinking about. This is, if you want to start a business in...
Right up your alley, Dr. Evil 10%.
Ledger butt plugs.
All I've got to say is, like, who would honestly use a ledger?
I know. Well, there's people. This, I don't know what this guy's about, but you've got one of your bros here. Here he is. Let's just use a keyring of a bolt. It's a bolt with some washers on it with their keywords engraved.
I was going to say, I looked at this person's account. So username, which I've never come across, but Bitcoin in my butt. And
I've never seen him before.
The tweets are pretty insane, like you'd expect.
I've never seen this guy before.
Remember we looked at one, I can't remember, something like fatties and Bitcoin or something like that.
That was
this is another one. So there's one post here which I've picked out as being my favorite, and it's me so corny, me stacky.
Okay. It's okay. He seems very focused in on butts, so we'll leave him there. It's when you literally brand your whole Bitcoin, like, it's just called Bitcoin in my butt, and like, to be fair, he's how many tweets? He's had 7,000 freaking tweets. Just seemingly about Bitcoin and butts. Mainly about butts. So I think my dude has a little bit of an obsession about butts, but hey, that's the one tweet that I don't even follow the guy, and it just popped up on the feed about a prison safe ledger. I'm like, okay, I'm grabbing that. That can end the pod. Like you said, it makes no sense. Like, why would you even I don't know why you put it inside of that thing. Like, lube it up, plastic bag, up it goes.
Dr. Evil 10% is actually speechless. Someone's gagged him.
I've got a feeling we found Dr. 10%'s sock account. I think Bitcoin in my butt.
Well, I was going to say, it isn't mine because
I've been rumbled.
I was going to say, it's not mine because he's using a ledger.
Just clever misdirection. further down.
Just trying to throw us off the scent.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, the dogs ain't sniffing that. It's well disguised. All right, boys. Bedtime.
Right. But well, there we have it. We've managed to wrap it up in an hour or so.
Sweet.
So this has been Pod 152, brought to you by the 4Bs, Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution. And if you wanted to see Mrs. No Show, guess what? She was a no-show. Peace.